afternoon to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of The World Today. Of course, today will be on the recent blasts and attacks and bombings that took place in France. Of course, our condolences to all the French nationals and all the French people in Paris and in France that were somehow victimized in any way by these recent terrorist attacks. Of course, today we'll be discussing these deadly attacks, and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, US President Barack Obama and German Chancellor Merkel led a global chorus of solidarity with France, and we'll be taking a further look throughout today's episode of The World Today. I'm very delighted to be joined by my guests in the studio this afternoon, Major General Mahmoud Morsi, the strategic researcher at Chatham House, UK. A very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Now, let's take news from The Guardian website. With the Paris attacks, shootings and explosions leave at least 120 people dead. Scores die in siege at the concert at the Battersea Concert Hall and at scenes of apparently coordinated series of gun and bomb attacks in the French capital. At least 128 people have died in Paris in a wave of coordinated gun and suicide bomb attacks, prompting the French President François Hollande to declare a state of emergency and tighten controls on the country's borders. The deadliest terrorist attack on Europe since the 2004 train bombings. 6 venues across Paris were targeted. Gunmen opened fire at a rock concert and on patrons in restaurants, and a series of bombs were detonated near the Stade de France, where the national side was playing Germany in an international friendly football match. At least 8 attackers are dead, 7 of them in suicide bombings, but witness to one shooting said police told them at least one attacker was still at large. In the bloodiest incident, 87 people were reported killed inside the concert venue when gunmen opened fire on the crowd during the concert by the US group Eagles of Death Metal, and many people in the crowd were reportedly hostage before armed police stormed the venue. Some of those inside the theater told reporters 3 of the terrorists detonated suicide belts as the French security closed in. And we have some recent figures. Reports earlier suggested up to 157 people were killed. In addition, over 300 were injured. Now, first and foremost, Mr. General Morsi, a very tragic event and a very tragic attack on several areas in France. How do you see this recent terrorist attack to be held in France, in Europe?
First of all, these attacks give us many indications. First one, there is no state or in any country in the world, any region, are well protected or 100% secured against terrorist attack.
Indeed.
So terrorist attack can hit any place in the world. First one, there is some intel informations have been in France many days ago, and this information is being confirmed that show us there is something wrong with intelligence agencies in France. Third one is there is still a lack of cooperation between intel service agencies in the United States, in UK, in France, in Germany, and Russia, because this attack never happened without information going everywhere. Fourth one, there is a taken, of course, there is the procedures have been taken in advance in France and in many areas in the world, showing these procedures are shortage, are not enough. It's showing us this ISIS group or other terrorist group can work everywhere with a lot of free. First one, the last one is also we show this last accident is showing us that ISIS group or terrorist attack have been improved their techniques, their means, their measures, because it is never this attack happened in France in such wide area and with taking many people in hostage, with killing many people, with using a lot of weapons in this attack without cooperations with the internal people from the country, from France itself. It's showing that still a lot of weakness in the intelligence and security procedure in France.
Indeed.
Okay. This is some implications showing us. The other thing, if we look at the accident in the national and international level, first of all, of course, France have taken many steps. They have cleared the state of emergency in France. and the police and the military have been blocked the areas and ways. But I think there is still things to do to confirm this, the people who doing that have been catch in the future. This one. The second one, in the international level, I think that with ISIS in France and doing what they're doing as a terrorist attack, I think there will be a lot of measures will be against refugees, immigrants, and people traveling all over the world. In contrast or in comparison with the accident in Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh in the last week, few days ago, we found out have we going to stop flying to France? Are UK or United States have been stopped flying to France because France is one with secure area? So a lot of questions will be happening. But I think the most important thing is that the EU is now proving or presenting a new refugees, new immigration policy. What will be this policy will be like with terrorist attacks in France? France in the heart of Europe. And I think many countries like Germany, New Zealand, all these countries will be very worried about the next coming refugees in the area.
Indeed. Okay. Let's go to the Washington Post, and the headline reads, "It is horror," according to French President Hollande's remarks after the Paris attack. Now declaring a state of emergency and closing the nation's borders, French President François Hollande delivered his speech Friday in the midst of attacks that devastated Paris. He said, as I speak, terrorist attacks of unprecedented proportions are underway in the Paris area. There are dozens killed. There are many injured. It is a horror. We have, on my decision, mobilized all forces possible to neutralize terrorists and make all concerned areas safe. Two decisions will be taken. One, a state of emergency will be declared, which means that some places will traffic may be banned, and there will also be searches which may be decided throughout Greater Paris. Second decision is to close the borders. We must ensure that no one enters to commit any crimes, and those who have committed the crimes, we have unfortunately seen, can be also arrested. Now, first and foremost, how do you see France's reactions? Deadly attacks on its soil and the repercussions, in your opinion, of these bloody attacks in the coming period?
Yeah, I think we have to look to the procedures have been taken in France in two ways. First one, the procedures taken in the accident, just after the accidents happened. The police and the military have been deployed, very quick deployed. Many cameras will be used. Many roads have been blocked around the area, and they have to communicate with the people in the hostage. And I think they attacked the place to rescue many people and save many lives. This happens, and the President Hollande have been in the spot after 15 minutes to respond. I think it's good things to do, how to deal with the procedures. But I think we have two weakness area. The first one is the procedures before the accident to stop this kind of accident, and the second one is the procedure after the accident. Now the accident is finished, and I think the emergency of state to block the road and to have
orders and
exactly. And I don't know how the rules and the democracy will be. I think in France people are very aware about their freedom, about the using and the freedom in France. I think there is a lot of problems will be happen in France according to the emergency of state, even it's for
because now we're talking even schools, museums, tourist sites.
Have been closed, and also will be researched, and this is one thing. And also we have to look to the steps in the future. I think a lot of using a lot of screening, a lot of monitoring people, watching and monitoring TV, monitoring phone calls, people tweeting, people using another sort of media. All this will be observed.
Aside from the actual attacks that happened and the people that have been killed or have been injured, do you see these attacks as succeeding in creating a state of terror? Now people have been encouraged not to leave their homes. They have been encouraged to keep away from general or public places. Is this one of the aims of such terrorist attacks, in your opinion?
I think the aims of the attack, first they're saying we are here, we can hit anywhere, anytime, exactly, anywhere, anytime in EU, in Europe. France is a big country in EU. This is one. Second one, make people people get fears and worry about what will happen. I think this is a kind of balance, and I think the most important thing is the government and the state will be interfere. What's the right procedures to regain the trust of the people again, because the people now, I think the people now have lost their confidence in the government and in the police and security situations. This accident is showing up. I think it's big accident, not small terrorist attack happened like what happened in Ibido on West, in the restaurant, the Jewish restaurant.
So this is a coordinated
it's coordinating
of bombings.
Yes, and also the problem is it's coordinating inside France itself. I think these people never could do this operation without cooperation. The local people, they have a communicate with others. So this is big thing to discuss about.
Right, let's go to the World Bulletin, and we have a headline that reads, Paris attacks, hostages taken, President orders borders shut. Now, the World Bulletin also has reported on this incident, saying that at least 153 people were killed in the multiple attacks in Paris, including one near the Stade de France Sports Stadium and another at a concert venue. 15 of the victims were killed at the concert hall in eastern Paris. That the hostage crisis was still ongoing. This is, of course, from last night. Now, first and foremost, the U.S. President Barack Obama declared a state of emergency. How do you view the current complicated incidences happening all over the world? It's had repercussions and all the other countries. A lot of countries in Europe are taking extra precautionary measures. Some have even restricted issuing visas to possible visitors or tourists. Belgium has urged the citizens to avoid Paris already. Germany has said they will do whatever they can. The British Prime Minister also said we want to help as much as we can. And a lot of solidarity from lots of countries around the world. So how do you view the consequences declaring a state of emergency and all the European countries taking action on their part?
Yes, taking actions is one thing, but I think the most important, when you limit the people and control people to stay in one country, I think now the EU is, the moving of people between countries, between states, a huge people is moving, a lot of money, a lot of economic things going a lot between all the EU members. So the problem is when you're going to control these things, I think it's hard to do. And even now, I think in comparison again with the Putin and Russian decision to stop flying Egyptian airlines from Egypt to Russia because the terrorist attack, what will happen? France will going
an
to
attack that hasn't yet been confirmed.
Sure, of course, yeah. But what happened in France is France will make another procedures to stop flying to France. France, Paris is not a safe area. So it is. I think a lot of. I think last week is UK is already take a lot of precautions in immigrations area in the airports and ports to stop people coming and to control. I think with kind of accident, it's very difficult to do that without people themselves cooperation and coordination.
Indeed. Let's come back home from Al Ahram Online. The headline reads, Egypt harshly condemns the Paris terrorist attack and says terrorism has no border nor religion. The Egyptian presidency condemned with the harshest words Friday's terrorist incidents in several locations in Paris. Ambassador to Paris was delegated to offer condolences to the French political leadership and to the government and people of the French Republic regarding the victims of these brutal terrorist incidents. Egypt's ambassador was also delegated to confirm Egypt's solidarity with France and its support for international efforts made to fight terrorism, which knows neither borders nor religion. Now, terrorism, of course, it is a real threat, and as the Egyptian authorities said, knows no borders and no religion. First and foremost, now we are seeing other countries, not just Egypt, saying it is necessary to coordinate the anti-terrorism fight and to work together against terrorism. But before, this wasn't their attitude. Before, terrorism was just the Middle East region, to Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, whatever, the Middle East countries, not their calls to coordinate the fight against terrorism. Do you think that this is one positive reaction that has come out from such a negative, tragic event?
Of course, I think the behavior of the foreign states like EU, like other countries, should be changed. I think now is a terrorist in their ground, in their states, in their territory against their people. I think the president was calling many months ago about the global summit, terrorist global summit, to fight the terrorists in many areas. I think it's very important now to coordinate. And the problem is, think should be kind of trust should be built between these countries, and I think also a lot of agencies of intelligence agencies working together to find the way how these groups working.
That's indeed a very important thing, to collaborate between the countries on intelligence, because that's the name of the game, that's the power in fighting this. Let's go to the New York Times. The headline, Obama says Paris attacks are on all of humanity. U.S. President Barack Obama condemned the series of deadly attacks across Paris as an attack on all of humanity, and he pledged to work with France to was responsible to justice. Obama also said, whenever these kinds of attacks happen, we've always been able to count on the French people to also stand by our side, and they have been an extraordinary counterterrorism partner, and we intend to be with them in that same fashion. Let me ask you Obama's response. We all know there is a U.S. coalition that is leading a fight also against the Daesh terrorists in the Middle East, and Daesh has already claimed responsibility for these attacks, and there have been lots of reports coming in that they have found a Syrian passport next to one of the attackers that blew himself up, etc. Of course, these are all subject to confirmation eventually after the investigations are happening. Now that, for example, Obama, and there is now a fear also in the United States that they could be next, because if it happened in Europe, it could happen in Germany, it could happen in Britain, it could happen anywhere else. How do you think they will take precautions in order to avoid security breaches and attacks like this?
I think the first thing to understand how this group coming together, how they blend, and how they did. This is very important to understand how all these steps come together, because of course we understand this group coming from everywhere, from Daesh, from Turkish, from Syria, from Iraq, or from inside another Arabian state, to coming to get together to plan. So it's very important to control and monitor these people. This will be lead there. You will be ready to understand if there is anything will be happen again. So it's very important to understand it. And it never happened between, because there is a plan, there is a map. You have to understand what is happening in the United States, France, in UK, in Germany, and Turkey. All accidents are related to each other in some way or other.
Indeed. Now we've seen the Daesh group claiming the series of coordinated attacks by the suicide bombers, and we've seen several meetings being held across Europe, including Austria, Germany, Italy, and Spain. Security has been beefed up around Europe after the Paris attacks. European capitals reinforced their security checks. Security measures were also stepped up outside official buildings in various cities, including Vienna, for example. Germany has also come out saying that they have beefed up security. Do you think all these responses, or the snowball effect to the recent attack in Paris, do you think they are sufficient? Do you think attacks, even with the beefed up security, could be a possibility? All the countries are on high alert. Do you think this is rightfully so?
I think the most important thing is, it's like a game between the security breach as a state and security and the procedures taken in the state, and between the terrorist group. It's a game. It's just one finds a way to deal with others. And we will watch, because the accident in France, the last accident 3-4 months ago, and this is another huge accident in France. So I think maybe the security procedure, the security measures will be stopped in some way, but almost we have to, what happened, we need to predict, to find out how is working group, because these groups sometimes find another ways, they improve their things. It's proof now, they change their techniques, what they're doing. So we need to understand how is these people working, how is these people thinking, to be in front of them, to be just take more steps in advance of them, to understand their strategy, their policy. And I think these security measures, if you in UK or in France, you find a lot of security in the airports, a lot of things happen, monitoring with computers, with this kind of system. But I say still this thing, accidents happen.
We also have the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini said that these spate or bloody attacks have given a new meaning to the global efforts to solve the war in Syria, for example. So do you think such attacks will further mobilize the European countries to play a more active role in finding a proper solution, political solution to countries in crisis, for example, like Syria, like Iraq, like Yemen?
I think the core of the problem is the political solutions. If we find the political solutions, will be solve the problems. We should find the political solution for the case in Russia, the crisis in Syria, with Russia, with Iran, with us in the area, to solve the political solutions. If we solve it, we will cooperate and coordinate, and we have our effort against ISIS. And I think it will be the only solutions.
Indeed. Let me ask you, what are the repercussions of such attacks on, for example, the migrant situation? Germany had 800,000 migrants expected to arrive. Paris was also taking in France. A lot of European countries were responsive to the migrant crisis. Do you think that most of the migrants, since they do come from Islamic countries, do you think that now there will be a shift in the stance towards the migration?
Of course. Just your words remind me by the Merkel when she said we will not these people, we will be returning these people to their countries, and we'll do something against these people. This is very important. I think this kind of accident will have a negative effect on the people of the refugees in EU, and will move many people out of their countries. And this is very strange. And you know, there is another voice in Europe saying we have to not admit these people as refugees to our countries. So I think will be a lot of fighting now, and these people will have some right to say we will not accept this. We will not accept more another terrorist attack in our countries. And also what happened, you will be just all the people will be put in one basket. And I think it will be
but
a wrong policy.
But do they really think, General Mahmoud, that the migrants or the refugees that are coming from countries are the reason behind such attacks? Could they really believe so? Or are there already people that were in the country, on the ground, operating?
There is two things, two links between. The people not behind the attacks, of course, they are not, because a lot of people is just coming to EU, they don't speak, you know, this kind of accidents is well coordinated.
Indeed.
People speak French very well.
Indeed.
They know the security procedures. I think they are not. These people have been living in France for many years. These people understand what they're doing. So I think the refugees or the immigrants who are just coming looking for houses and shelters to stay are not behind the accident.
Further worsening the situation for the refugees. I'm afraid we've run out of time. Major General Mahmoud Morsi, strategic researcher at Chatham House, UK. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up this afternoon. Well, today, my name is Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.